Hello and welcome back to this course. In the previous session, we have discussed about the introduction of array. Okay. Now in this session, we are going to implement the codes that we have discussed as an example over array. Okay. So let's start. So very first, just go to new file, create empty file and just save this file. You can just create a new folder and let's give it a name as array. Now just open up this folder and within this example1.c. Now click on save. Now let's try to implement the very first code that demonstrate the declaration of array, accessing the array elements as well as reading and writing to the array. Okay. If you want, you can just add comments. Demonstration of array basics. So start by including the header file which is stdio.h. Start the main function. Now let's define the variable int average comma sum which is equal to 0, int I, int marks with size 30 semicolon. Okay, so this is the declaration of array. Now let's define a for loop which is I equal to 0, I less than equal to 29, I plus plus. Okay, start the curly brackets and just printf the message, enter marks, and we have to store the value. So scanf within double quotes the format specifier which is %d and marks of I. So this is the loop for storing the elements to the array. Now just create one more for loop. So for I equal to 0 semicolon I less than equal to 29 semicolon I plus plus. Start the curly brackets. Now here we will just store sum equal to sum plus marks of I. So here we are accessing the array elements. Next we need to calculate the average. So we can write AVG is equal to the total sum divided by 30, and at the end we can print the result /n, that is for new line, average marks is equal to %d, and we can just pass average value. So we are done with the code. Now just go to build. You will see the code compiled successfully. Now let's try to run this code. Okay, so here is the output. The message has been printed for enter marks. Okay, so we have to enter marks 30 times. So I'm entering some random marks. Just pay attention, never cross the value for 30 because once it is crossed to 30, average marks will be printed. Just keep it slow and you will see the average marks 50. So after entering, let's count these number of values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 and this 30. Okay, so after 30 entries we have get the output which is average marks, okay, which is 50. So basically all these marks are added one by one and finally divided by 30. So I hope this example is clear. Now let's try the next one. So again go to new file, create an empty file and save this file to the same folder and let's give the name as example2.c. Click on save. So you can add comments. Now we are going to implement the example that uses pointers to access the array element. Okay, so you can add comments accessing array elements using pointers. So include the header file which is stdio.h. Start the main function. Now let's define the variable. Let's say int num equal to, within curly brackets the value should be added. So 24 comma 34 comma 12 comma 44 comma 56 comma 17. Okay, semicolon. Okay, so we have created an array. Let's create another variable int I. Now let's create a pointer variable which is pointer j. And here j is equal to the address of num0. Okay, that means the 0th element of this array. So right now j is having the address of 0 element. So let's try to access the elements one by one. So for I is equal to 0, I less than equal to 5, I plus plus. Okay, now let's start the curly brackets. Printf within double quote /n address is equal to %u which is for unsigned int and comma j. Okay, so j is having the address of the element. Next we have to printf the value. So we can write elements is equal to %d, that is for int, and we can pass the value at address told by the pointer variable j. And at last we have to increment the address. So basically this is incrementing the address of the array elements. Now let's try to build the code. You will see the build finished with 0 errors and 0 warnings. Now let's run this code. Okay, so you will see here the value printed as address equal to 6356704 and elements is equal to 24. Okay, you can see the output is not clear because there is no any space between the address and the elements. Okay, so let's try to add this. So close this output window and you can just simply write /t, which is for tab. Let's build again and run the code. Okay, so now output is clear. You can see the address as well as elements printed in a single line. Here the address is 6356704, which is the base address, that is for 0th element. Okay, the next address is added by 4. So 04, 08, 12, 16, 20, 24. Now you will ask, in the example the address was incremented by 2, but here the address is incremented by 4. Okay, now this depends upon the compiler. Code block is using a 32-bit compiler. Okay, therefore the size of int is 4 byte. That's why the address is incremented by 4. Okay, I hope this thing is clear. So that's all for this implementation. You can implement other examples on your own, and if you find any difficulties, feel free to reach us. Okay, so see you in the next session.